how long should you bulk? Today, I'm going to dig into that question. All right, guys and girls, I had a question on Instagram from Spencer, and he said, hey, Chris, like, how long should I bulk? Like, what's your timeline? What do you do with your clients? And sadly, I'm going to say what I say to most people is it's a ton of gray area. How long you bulk depends on, to me, about 5 factors, and I'm going to go through each one of them today. Number 1, and that's going to be digestion. So what I mean by that is I really like to push food north high and with as much whole food as humanly possible. So, if you all know, like, I don't like more than 2 shakes in a day. In a perfect world, I would have 1 shake in the off season, maybe even 0 if I could literally stomach all the food. And my job was, gave me the ability to eat all whole food meals. But I realize that most people don't have that luxury like I do. But in most cases, I want to have 4 at minimum whole food and 2 shakes. Or in a perfect world, I like to do a shake post lift with easy digesting carbs and then 5 whole food meals around it. So I've set up my all season that way for the last 3 years, and it's worked extremely well for both growth and just improving my ability to process and digest food. Because at the end of the day, like, we are what we digest, right? So what I need to think about with that is if your digestion starts to get slow, I need to say, okay, why is that? Are your steps down? Are the food choices for you not optimal? Is your meal spacing not far enough apart? Because all of that plays a role in our digestion. And if you continue to just pile food into your stomach, eventually what's going to happen is your waist is going to start going this way and this way. And that's the last thing we want in the bodybuilding or physique enhancing realm, right? Because we want our waist to stay as small as possible with all of our muscles going around it, so we create a more dramatic illusion. So with digestion, if your food turnover rate is to the point where it's taking you more than 3 hours between meals to be remotely hungry again, I need to start looking at your program and start adjusting either the macronutrients or your food sources. So they can come from a bunch of different ways. Like, I'm old school, so I prefer higher levels of protein. But for you, 8, 9, 10 ounces of protein may drastically slow your digestion. And if that's the case, we're going to simply back that protein down to, say, 6 or 7 ounces and then increase carbohydrates and dietary fat. Now, if you're someone like me who doesn't process a ton of fat well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive protein north, carbs north, and leave my fat on the more moderate side. Because for me, what slows my digestion is once fat gets above like 80 grams per day, then I start to notice like, oh, my digestion just takes an absolute hit where I can eat carbs at 1,000 to 1,200. I can have protein at 8 ounces per meal and have 0 issue. So you have to play around with that number. And if you're a coach out there working with your clients, be very mindful. If they are having digestive issues, simply maybe a 24-hour fast to reset their digestion, or asking them really good, hard questions like, hey, when is your digestion backing up? So let's say, for example, you have a steak and potato meal at 4 o'clock every day, and it takes you to at least 7:30 to get hungry again, where the meal you had earlier in the day might have been chicken breast, white rice, and olive oil, and that went through you and you were hungry again in 90-ish minutes. So to me, you have to take that note and realize that A, it's either the steak or it's the potato or the combination of those two paired together. So I'm really big on meals, meal timing, and then the types of food, like, which a lot of times why you see me have chicken, rice, olive oil, and fruit. So it's that mix of sweet and savory that really keeps my digestion going. I'm also big on pineapple and different dietary digestive aids, prebiotics, probiotics, digestive enzymes, so that really help, again, keep all that motility moving through your body so that you can eat as much food as humanly possible and keep growing. So again, to finish up this first point, if your digestion is wrecked, then I tend to either put you into like a mini cut, which I absolutely hate, or just simply go into a dieting phase where we're going to compete and do a show. So again, digestion is going to be the number one thing, because if you can't eat progressively through the off season, it's really going to dampen your ability to grow. And if so, we have to shut that down and reset the digestion. If you're finding that after your cheat meals, the next day your stomach is wrecked, you have to fix that. So what that means is, if let's say you love having Ben & Jerry's, which I do, I love it, but it gives me a horrible allergic reaction. My hands swell, my digestion is wrecked, and I smell terrible. So again, dairy for me is not a great option. I have to go with things that digest extremely well. So burger and fries do well. Chick-fil-A does extremely well. Pancakes and eggs, another great option. Sushi, all of that goes through me extremely easy. I'm hungry again in 2 hours after that free meal. But if what you're doing is either binge eating or eating foods that upset your stomach and digestion, we have to fix that immediately, because at the end of the day, it's not a cheat meal off season for me. I have to see how many meals I can get perfect. So for me, that's 41 out of 42 meals in the off season in most scenarios. So if I have a free meal as that 42nd, that first meal coming on the backside, if I'm not able to process and digest it, I need to address the cheat meal or free meal, and maybe even considering eliminating it temporarily, or finding free meals that you either make at home, make on the grill, and I'll have Chaz like tag one of those here, that we do like a cheeseburger and sherbet at home, and it tastes absolutely delicious. It's free, it's off plan, but at the end of the day, you're able to be hungry again in 2 to 3 hours. All right, next up, your body fat percentage. Now, I know this varies person to person, because a lot of people can be in the off season and still hold a really nice looking composition. But if I'm speaking specifics and numbers for men, if you're above 15% body fat, you're no longer a bodybuilder in my mind. Like, you have lost all shape, you don't have veins in your appendages, the idea of abs are gone, right? So if your body fat's above 15, we have to go into a dieting phase, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, we are a physique sport that's geared by an eye test. So things I like to think about here is, for example, let's say you're someone like me who doesn't hold a lot of fat in their arms and their legs, and you're going off, oh man, well, my legs and arms are veiny. Awesome. That's one tool that I use with most of my guys. Like, if you aren't vascular through the arms and legs, we need to take your body fat down. But let's say you hold that all in your glutes, low back, midsection. If you know that's you, we have to be mindful of it. So even though your arms may look juicy and pumped on an arm day, when you take your shirt off, it's like, oh, that midsection is way out of control. So what I really challenge you guys and girls to do out there is find your fattest area, the area where you tend to store the most fat, or if you're thinking about it from the flip side, at the end of a prep, where is the fat lingering at the end? Watch that like a hawk. And if that gets too out of hand, somebody just pull that food back or go into a cutting or contest prep phase. Next up, performance. So what you'll find a lot of times in the off season is, if you really aggressively push food, what you'll tend to run into a lot of times, if you aren't very careful with nutrition planning and timing, is your workout performance begins to decrease, and that tends to center around insulin sensitivity. And what the things you'll notice, your strength may still be going up, but your ability to get a pump starts to diminish. And to me, again, we're in a physique sport. We have to be mindful of this. And then on the flip side of that, if your strength begins to go down because you're running so much food to where it feels like you're going to throw up the whole time, or when you go to cinch your belt in, it hurts, or when you say do a lying leg curl and all that pressure's on your midsection and you're like, oh my God, like this is just miserable. You're at a point where it's time to start a diet, in my mind. Because when your workout performance or your workouts start being affected by how much food you're eating, that is not a positive relationship in terms of productivity or progression. So that's something I always look to. If your workout performance begins to decline, whether that be pumps or strength, or you're just miserable in your sessions, or always throwing up, right? Like, I know a lot of people in the bodybuilding world use that as a badge of honor. Like, oh man, I threw up on deadlifts, or I threw up on leg day. If you're throwing your food up, how much money and time are you wasting, right? Because all the nutrients that you shoved in your face, which wasn't easy, is now in the trash can. If you're throwing up after every single session, I know you think that's hardcore, but you're actually making progress go down, because that stress hormone is this way and you're losing nutrients. So stop it. Next up, if you have a show timeline, and this again, to me, all stems from your composition. So going back to point number 2 of your body fat, if you get to 20 weeks out and your body fat is way out of control, it's time to start a diet. On the flip side of that, if you have a really good composition, we can probably push that to 12, 10, even 8 weeks out from a bodybuilding show. So a lot of times ending that bulk can simply stem from your timeline and where your body fat is and how aggressive you want to push the diet. So for me, I always do a more slower, easy, like progressive lean out, to where I might do diet for 25, 20, 18 weeks. Like, it's not a big deal to me. It doesn't affect me mentally. I actually like being more dialed in for longer periods of time, where I know other people that I work with, like, they're like, Chris, like, that's way too overwhelming to think I have to diet for 6 months. So you really have to play that body fat and show timeline based upon your look and your mental toughness. And when I say mental toughness, I don't mean I'm more hardcore because I can diet longer. What I'm just thinking about is, like, instead of mental toughness, I guess the better word there is like your mental capacity to diet, right? Because I know some people, they have more kids than I do, or they have jobs that are way more stressed or more demanding in terms of physically demanding or even mentally demanding, and they can't fathom the thought of being in a diet phase for 6 months. So again, your timeline will also dictate when to cut the bulk as well. Now, one little final caveat there is, if you're growing like a freight train, throw that timeline out the window. That's something I cannot stress enough to you guys. If you're growing like a weed, who cares about a show? Shows will be here forever, year round. But what won't be here is progress, because bodybuilding progress and muscle growth is never linear. But when you're on that train and you're going north with performance and you're packing on muscle, and next thing you know, like your triple X shirts are fitting tight, don't stop that. Don't, please, I'm begging you. Ride that wave for as long as humanly possible, and then let your body dictate when your prep starts. That may be the biggest piece of advice and take-home message of this entire video. And then last, fifth and final point here is going to be, to me at least, a question you must always ask yourself is, have you ever been in true shape for your division? So that's going to vary from bodybuilding to bikini and everything in the middle. But if I'm speaking specifically for all the guys or the men's classes, we all have to get body fat as low as humanly possible. In order to do that, we have to be in a great starting spot. So if you've never achieved true show shape, I would highly recommend not getting as fat as you have been in the past in the off season, and I would highly consider starting a prep and running it longer. Now, on the other side of that coin, if you always get in shape, like I have clients, they just don't miss. They're always peeled. Then those individuals, we can really push the envelope and really drive calories way up and push them into deeper levels of body fat in terms of the height of their body fat percentage for longer, because I know at the end of the day, they're always going to come in shape. Now, I'm not saying their preps aren't hard, but condition and achieving that thin cellophane wrapped muscle look isn't a problem for them. And that is a genetic ability, right? Like some people just have an easy, meaning when I say easier, I'm talking about consistency of peaking and consistency of all the fat disappearing. It tends to go off really evenly throughout the whole body, where the individuals always find who they hold fat in a very specific region. All the rest of their body will be peeled, but let's say their lower back isn't. So I really have to push them hard into the depths of suffering to get their last bit of fat off. So if that's you, I would highly recommend like maybe not getting so heavy in your all season so that your nutrition doesn't have to be pushed so low, your cardio pushed so high, in order to achieve that look on stage of being in true show condition. So if you look at this video as a whole, guys, I really challenge you all, listen to these 5 points, apply them to your next off season. And in the grand scheme of life, like bulking and cutting have been such a cliched term in the bodybuilding world. Like I would love to rid it of bulking, because anytime a woman says to me, Chris, I'm going to bulk, that just means you're going to get fat. That means you're going to eat like garbage. You're not going to follow a meal plan. And to me, this is never it. Like I came from a background of it's either off season or pre-contest. And throughout that entire process, you still want to remain looking like a bodybuilder all day, every day, no matter where you walk. There will be no doubt that you lift a lot of weights and you're on point with your nutrition, just solely based on your look year round. And if not, your body fat's way too high. And you should stop bulking. Stop it. But there is never a scenario where I just recommend smashing 5 guys and just eating like an absolute fat ass. It's a seafood diet. Just eat everything. Like that is very, very like 0.1% of the population who can do that and get away with it. And if you can, I always going to think the other side of that is going to be, what would you look like if you didn't eat like an asshole, right? Like how much more would you grow? How much more strength would you have? How much better would your performance in the gym be? And then the ultimate thing, how much healthier will your internal organs and heart be? You know, everyone's so fast in this bodybuilding world to jump on steroids and the crazy shit we do with getting our body fat off. But yeah, you little smash 5 guys and eat 147 grams of sugar at the end of 5 guys and then wash it down with milkshakes and ice cream and not bat a damn eye at it. How logical is that, right? Or they skip all their health supplements in the all season. Shocker. Your heart and blood pressure are in a terrible spot to start a prep. And then you're going to go run a bunch of trend, Masteron, and Clean with it. Good luck living past 40, bro. So, to conclude this, how long should you bulk? The answer is, I don't know. It depends on all 5 factors that I discussed in this video. And honestly, they all kind of work together synergistically. So, watch this video back, take notes, apply it to your all season, and get to growing the smart way, the Chris way. Until next time, Chris TV.